Everybody, welcome to this week's mentality tip. This mentality tip I want to talk about, it's a bit of a saying, it's even a bit of a mantra, it could be for some people. And I've heard lots of people say it and we use it, but I want you to understand real clearly how this formulates as a warrior belief and where a conflicting belief can come into play. The saying is simple: you will not rise to your expectations, but fall to your level of training. Now, most of you have heard that saying. You will not rise to our expectations, but fall to your level of training. Now, that can be viewed as a specific belief about combat. In a sudden stress environment, or, just a stress environment, you will not rise to the expectation, but you will fall to your level of training. When I say that and you repeat that phrase to yourself, you have an emotional response to that with a certain amount of intensity. How does that make you feel? Intellectually, do you understand it to be true? So you can look at it and go, yeah, when you're in a crisis situation, you're not going to rise to some unrealistic expectation that you might have. You're going to fall to a level of training. It's going to be based off your references, your experiences, what you actually know how to do. Makes sense. What I want you to do, though, is I want you to look now at your identity beliefs. Because if most of us could probably agree that we believe that saying, and we have a fairly high level of conviction about that about that saying, when we come to our identity beliefs, there's a number of people, and this is natural. This is not something that you go, oh my God, like you don't have to be afraid to admit this or whatever. I mean, this is natural. Within our identity beliefs, now identity belief obviously is something that we believe specifically about ourselves. Most men, most people have a belief that there is something deeper within us. Now I'm going to relate this specifically to our combat. Most of us have this belief that in a really bad situation, I mean if shit hit the fan, somebody was harming our children, somebody kicked our door in at 3 o'clock in the morning, if we got into a situation that was real, I mean this shit got real and it got bad, most of us believe that there is something within us, there's a level, a deep, dark demon in the basement, and if that got real and that happened, this demon would come out. Okay? Well, let's look at that for a second. And I hope everyone can understand it, because most of you can probably feel what I'm talking about. It's like being in a situation, you get hit, and you start feeling hurt, but all of a sudden you get that one hit and you're like, now that just made you mad. And now that you're mad, it's like, you wouldn't like me when I'm angry. Eyes turn green, shirts rip off, Hulk comes out, you black out, people go crazy. Okay, you get the feeling? I've had so many people come in and tell me they're talking about combat or fighting and this, and it's like, I just go crazy, man. I black out like I'm an animal. I'm a psycho. I've had people tell me, oh, I just see my one friend. This guy's, he's a nut, man. He goes psycho. It's not psycho. The guy's not a nut. You know what you're talking about? Condition black. The guy blacks out. He literally shuts down the forebrain. The midbrain takes over. The puppy slams through his door. He's got no fine motor skills. He's got no complex motor skills. And now what you got is a hairless, clawless bear, big, huge guy, frothing at the mouth and come flying in. Can that guy be dangerous? Yeah, absolutely. Especially to the people that you're going to find out in the bars and all the fighting type situations. You're going to find the guy that's got the shotgun mouth and the BB gun ass. So all of a sudden you got a big hairless, clawless bear going around. Yeah, that could be pretty scary for some of those guys. But what we have to understand as warriors is you will not rise to your expectations. You will fall to your level of training. You're starting to see my parallel here? What you could potentially have is a conflicting belief. You have this intellectual understanding, and especially the more you start to involve yourself in combat, you understand that you got to understand the makeup of what a sudden stress situation is, or what a startle response situation is, just what a critical situation is. Each of these things have different physiological makeup, different environments, different stressors. And these things produce a physiological, a psychological response in our body that require different physical tactics. Your training and why you train and why you become aware of the realities of combat is with your training, you are setting your level or your standard. Not that you'll fall to your level of training, not in the sense that it goes down or it's below the situation, but all the time that you spend training, you are literally setting your level that you want to be able to perform. You're setting your peak performance level at an appropriate spot for a lethal force encounter. What you're doing is getting rid of this expectation. But this is what everybody has in the world. Unless you're trained, what you have is an expectation of how you would respond in a crisis. I'm not a firefighter, never been in a building fire, no idea. If you ask me what I would do if my house started to burn down and woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning surrounded by flames, I have an idea what I'd do, but I know based off the training that that's an expectation. And do you know what will happen when I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and my house is on fire? I will not rise to that expectation. That part of me that thinks that, oh man, whatever, I'll jump through flames, roll through flames, wrap blankets around my head, swing off my rail, grab my daughter in one hand, kick a door out with the other. You know what I mean? It's like, I will not rise this expectation. I'm going to fall to a level of training. If I don't have a level of training, I'm probably going to go to condition black. So now what you're going to have is a hairless, clawless bear running around in a fire. It's not going to, you know what I mean? It's maybe some people look at it and go, wow, that guy went nuts, man. Tried to run right through that wall. That guy's psycho. That's not the smart thing to do. That is why you actually have to have a fire drill. You have to have a plan. Okay, so when we relate this back to combat, you need to see the parallels between the training, understanding startle response situations and critical stress situations. You set your level of training to do that. So now you will fall to a level of training. That level of training is high and it is appropriate for that situation. If we go back to this identity belief, and there's this part of us that thinks that when we get these emotionally charged situations, we're just gonna, the demon in the basement's gonna be released. Okay? It's an illusion. So let me just really try to clarify this, because again, this is common. This is not uncommon. If you have this part of you, this subtle thought or belief in you, that, in my training, I'm working, I'm training, and yeah, I go in a scenario, sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's this, sometimes I take a hit or two, whatever. But then there's a part of you, whether you're here, it's when you leave, or you're at home, or you're out at night, or whatever, there's a part of you that goes, yeah, if this shit gets real, look out. Because I can feel it. There's a beast deep in the basement. And when this shit gets real, that beast is coming out. What you have there is an expectation, but it's like a wish. Okay, it's like on your birthday and having your birthday cake, and before you blow the candles out, you make a wish, and you can't tell anybody it won't come true. That's what you have. You've got this wish or this hope. You have this expectation that you will rise, that somehow you are going to become this different person. It's not going to happen. Okay? It's all crap. Here's the reality. If you can't bring it out in training, I don't care if you say training's not real. If you can't bring it out in training, you can't access it, which means you don't control it. The type of control we're talking about is like a light switch. You can't flick it on and flick it off. It's the safety catch on the gun. You can't take your safety off. You can be in a scenario, and no matter how intense the scenario gets, or how hard it is, or how real it gets, how close it comes, you always think that, oh yeah, but if it got real, man, there's another level that I go to. That level's a wish. You can create then a conflicting belief. Okay, you have to examine that, and you have to get rid of it. You have to understand that that's what the saying means when it says you will not rise to expectation. What you wish and what you hope you will become, what you think you feel inside you, this raging beast, it isn't there. You will fall to a level of training. If you're a warrior in your training, it's not a fall at all. You will simply autopilot. You will move into, you will transcend to your training. So for us, it's in a crisis situation, you will not need an expectation. You will transcend to a level of training. For everybody else, they will not rise to their wish or expectation. They will fall to a level of training which doesn't exist. Okay? So get rid of and make sure that you have no faith in this thing that you think is there, but just haven't brought out because if you did, people would get hurt. I couldn't unleash that in a scenario, man. People literally, their heads would be detached from their bodies. Karate guys say, we can't do MMA stuff, we can't do that real stuff. If we ever hit a guy with a real reverse punch, we'll kill him. Stop his heart. It's bullshit. It's all bullshit. Okay? So make sure with this mentality tip, really look for a conflicting belief there. You probably have it to some small degree. Okay? Make sure that you understand and gain your confidence from knowing that your training, you will transcend into a very high level of training that you have absolute implicit control over. Safety off, safety on, destroy whatever you point that weapon at. Okay, so take a thought on that, and if you having a hard time, getting past that, look back 2 weeks ago to the denial one, and that's kind of where you're living it. Rewatch that, come back, revisit this. So that's it for this week. Till next time, take care, and come on, man.